Hi everyone, my name is Kylie Cooper, and we're going to get started with our inaugural TEL Talks, our topics for early learning leaders. This is a new project for us from the Child Care Aware office that has grown out of an ongoing need and trends that we've noticed coming from directors and administrators with regard to specific questions that are consistent throughout the state. So tonight we're going to be focused, or today, it's not nighttime yet, we're going to be focusing on scholarships and professional development opportunities for supporting your staff. So I'm going to go through, as we get started, just some basic information about what you can expect from this series going forward. So these, like I said, this is a brand new project for us. We've been brainstorming. We sent out a survey a few months ago to gather input from all of you based on questions that you might have about the work that you do and the programs that you're running. These will be monthly webinars, and they'll be based on identified interest areas. And most of those are coming directly from the feedback that we received in the April 2019 survey. Our upcoming webinars are going to be on August 20th with Dr. Sharon Bergen. She's going to be talking about professional development opportunities for directors. And then in September, just a quick plug, we'll have an actual in-person networking event at the 2019 Trainer and RBPD Summit. That's going to be in Breezy Point up in Brainerd, Minnesota. And at that one, we'll have some surprise gifts for directors who are coming. With those, we will be continuing to gauge interest and ongoing needs and questions that you might have. With the Trainer and RBPD Summit, we think it's a really good opportunity for directors and administrators to attend. Many of you, if not all of you, are providing professional development or orientation and onboarding for your program staff. And so it's a good way to kind of freshen your toolbox for training opportunities that you're offering in your programs. And then we have our October TEL Talk scheduled as well, and the topic for that is going to be on Achieve and Develop, and using Develop as an organization account and how you can support your staff when they are navigating Develop and getting their memberships and keeping them up to date and all that fun stuff. So today we'll begin with this overview. I would like to remind everyone that there is a question feature on here. We're going to be keeping a pretty close eye on the question tab as we go through. So everyone is going to remain muted for this webinar, but as you have questions, please feel free to reach out. And as we have time for a pause, we'll do our best to answer all of those. We'll also be sending out a recording of the webinar along with any resources and contact information that we've mentioned throughout the webinar, so you have access to that going forward. A little bit about Child Care Aware of Minnesota. We're talking to you from St. Paul, Minnesota. We're the coordinating office here, and so we support a statewide network of professionals and early childhood educators. We focus on a variety of areas. Professional development, Eager to Learn is our online professional development branch. We have grants, both regional and retain, which we'll talk about a little bit here today. A lot of parent aware rating support, trainer and RBPD support, and then the main focus of our conversation here, which is going to be teach and CDA programming. Our goal is to keep the community informed of the importance of quality childcare. This is just a map of the different areas that we serve. As I mentioned, we support the whole state in the delivery of professional development and the parent aware rating system, and a little bit more about Child Care Aware there. My name is Kylie Cooper. I'm the Workforce Advising Coordinator here at the coordinating office. The others on the TEL Talks team, we've got Nikki Groff. She's the Professional Development Advisor for the Accredited Child Care Programs, and Nikki Lepowski, who's our Quality Improvement Coordinator. You might recognize their names if you've gone through the Parent Aware rating process in the last year and you're in the accelerated pathway. Also, a special thanks to the others from our TEL Talks team, which is Erin Young, Corey Woosley, Katie Hoffman, and Marissa Albritton, who've all been really helpful in helping us put together these presentations and starting the outreach for it. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to Erin Young. Erin is coming from our financial supports team. She is our grants and scholarships coordinator, and she's going to tell you about the different scholarships and grants opportunities that are available to you and your staff.
Thanks, Kylie. And like she said, my name is Erin, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about grants and scholarships. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through CDA and Retain pretty quickly, because the focus of this webinar is going to be more on Teach and how Teach works in an actual program and things like that. So CDA is I'm going to go through CDA and Retain really quick. I'm going to skip a lot of details. So if you have questions about CDA Retain, you can send them to us now, or once this webinar is over. Like as Kylie said, she's going to provide you with my email address and some other contact information. Finally, our website has a lot of information about these. So I'm just going to talk about CDA first. And we're fortunate here because we do have Kylie, and part of Kylie's job is CDA advising and helping people find training and portfolio questions, and also supporting them through the CDA council process too. So she does the bulk of the work around helping CDA candidates go through the process. Once they complete the process, either they are ready to get their first initial CDA credential or they're ready to renew, then that is where I come in. So we have 3 scholarships available for CDA. Like I said, the initial $425 assessment fee scholarship, the renewal scholarship, and then the training reimbursement. Then in order to be eligible for CDA scholarships here, the most important part is that a staff person needs to have a developed membership. And in order to be eligible for our scholarships, all of their training has to be approved through Achieve. So depending on where they took it, that varies wildly, can vary wildly, but it all has to be approved. Otherwise, they're just not eligible. You can see the other requirements. They have to be either working or volunteering in a licensed program, and they have to complete all the training requirements and the portfolio. And then we only award them, because we only award the scholarships quarterly. There are 2 ways they can do it. They can either go through the whole process and pay out of pocket, and then apply for a full reimbursement during one of the 4 dates that we offer the scholarships. So once they've already completed the process and got their credential, or renewed their credential, they can get a full reimbursement. Or if they're able to line up applying to the council for their CDA at one of our award times, we will pay a portion of the cost. We'll pay $300 of the $420 initial fee, or we'll pay $75 of the $125 renewal fee, and then they will get reimbursed for the rest once they've completed the credential process and sent us a copy of their credential. Training reimbursement only happens at the end, and they can get reimbursed for up to $600 for initial training, and $300 for renewal training. So then that happens at the end after they've gotten their CDA credential. So Retain, this is our grant program. We only offer grants once per year. They're awarded, the applications are accepted between April 1st through May 31st every spring, and then we award the grants in June. The amount of grant varies pretty wildly. It depends on what their lattice step is. Again, this information is all on our website and then included on this slide. It's complicated. So depending on their lattice step, they receive an amount of money, and they receive it in 2 parts. So in order to be eligible, this is a pretty competitive program. So in order to be eligible, a center staff person needs to work 30 hours a week in the same classroom with children directly. That means that in some cases, assistant directors or directors can be eligible, if they're working 30 hours directly with one group of children in a classroom. Otherwise, it's usually teachers, assistant teachers, aides, anybody like that would be doing a lot more direct care with kids. They need to have a lattice step of 5 or more. They need a developed membership, and then they have to work in the specific program for at least 1 year before, and usually that 1 year cutoff is April 1st. So if their 1 year anniversary falls after April 1st, they're not eligible until the next year. They can receive a retained grant 1 year, and then they are not eligible the next year, but then they can apply after that. So they have to skip a year in order to, they can't get a retained grant 2 years in a row. You also can't be receiving retained money and have a teach scholarship at the same time. So, but that's not true for CDA. So you can do CDA and retain at the same time. You can't teach and retain at the same time. Again, most of the details of this are on the website. So I will say we only due to limited funding, have about enough money to fund about 30% of the eligible applicants. So and also the breakdown of like what we look at for criteria and how we decide who gets one, all of that's also on our website. So that's that. And now we're getting into Teach. So hopefully some or most of you are familiar with the Teach scholarships. It's our college scholarship program. They can be used for associate or bachelor's degrees in early childhood or early childhood special ed. It does include a teaching license, only if you are doing a birth to grade 3 license. And it covers the majority of books and tuition. There is a credit limit. So you can see here, it only covers 18 credits a year. So if you want to think of it as a part-time college scholarship, rather than, it's not intended for someone who wants to go full-time. And that's because everyone who is eligible has to be working at least 20 hours a week, and most of our Teach recipients work full-time. So it's pretty difficult to juggle full-time college and full-time work. So that's why this scholarship is designed to help someone go to school part-time while they're also working in the field. There are some center responsibilities, and I am going to go more into detail of those in a minute. Someone in your center who is eligible needs to have worked there for at least 6 months. Also, directors and assistant directors are eligible for the Teach scholarship. You're also eligible if you already have a degree in associate or bachelor's in a different field, and you just want to get a bachelor's or something in early childhood, you're still eligible. But you have to attend a Minnesota-based college or university, or your staff does. You can't, we don't fund scholarships for out-of-state colleges, and that's because Teach is a nationally licensed program with the National Center located in North Carolina, and there's about 21 states right now that offer Teach scholarships, so that's why we keep the scholarships, and the colleges have to stay in state in order to be eligible. Questions?
Okay, we're going to take a quick pause here and check for questions and comments. We have one, looks like there's one question on here about a difference for family childcare, and we'll cover that. I know most of you here today are from centers and programs with multiple staff, but we will touch on the difference between a family childcare and the center scholarship and the obligations there briefly in a moment. Are there any other questions as we move on? Feel free to just type them into the pane next to the chat box as they come up. We'll keep an eye on that.
All right. So, like I said, the scholarships cover the majority of books and tuition. And I said, and this, so you'll see, remember from the last slide, the scholarship covers 85%. That means that the scholarship recipient pays 10% and the center pays 5%. We call that sponsorship. So the center will sponsor a recipient, and that again can be, that can still be a center director or assistant director, all the way down to any of the classroom staff who work with kids at least 20 hours a week. So the center responsibilities for sponsoring, like I said, they have to pay for 5% of the cost of the tuition and books, again, up to that 18 credit limit. They also have to provide release time. This is paid time for teachers, assistant teachers, and aides. Directors and assistant directors don't get release time. The thought behind it is that people are working full time, probably, and going to school, and they need some time off during the week to study, write a paper, or run errands, or do things that they wouldn't be able to do, because just having a couple hours a week of paid time is really important for them to be able to meet all of their responsibilities for work and school and life. So this gives them a little bit of time off, and they can use it as they want. And we will reimburse the center at a rate of $12 an hour, which I recognize most people make more than that. So we so we call it a partial reimbursement of those hours that you are giving to the staff person that's paid, that does not come out of their PTO. The center also has to choose each year if they're going to give a $250 bonus at the end of the year or a 2% raise. This is only if the scholarship recipient completes 9 credits during the year. So if they complete somewhere between 9 and 18 credits, then they're eligible for this bonus or this raise. Teach scholarships last 1 year, 12 months. And so this happens at the end of the year, and then the scholarship recipient can renew their scholarship for as many years as they need to until they finish a degree. They can also start at the associate level, earn their associate degree, and continue on at the bachelor level and get scholarships for the whole amount. There's not a limit on how many scholarships the recipients can apply for. Also, since the center is sponsoring by paying in for books and tuition and these other benefits, the center also, the scholarship recipient signs a contract that says they will commit to staying at the center for 1 year after each year of their scholarship. What this means in kind of actuality is they can keep renewing scholarships. They have to stay employed at the center while they're getting on scholarship. And then when they finish their degree or no longer applying for scholarships, then they will stay at your center for 1 more year. So you're putting in, the center is putting in money and supporting the scholarship recipient as they go through their degree. And at the end, they will stay, so they'll stay all the years and that they're on scholarship, and then they'll stay 1 additional year. That's helping to reduce turnover, because one of the tenets of the TEACH scholarships is reducing turnover. So, then I'm going to touch on, so the differences, if I talk about family childcare for 1 minute, the family childcare provider doesn't have a center to sponsor them, so they take on that extra 5% cost. So a scholarship recipient who is a family childcare provider would pay 15%, whereas center employees would pay 10%, because they have the center helping them out. So I think that's kind of TEACH in extremely high speed. So again, there's more information on the website, and also you can email me for questions. I feel like that question is about applying. Oh, no, centers. So the question is, do centers have to be open year round for the TEACH scholarship? No. So if you work for let's say a Head Start program, we have many Head Start programs that are closed during the summer, or preschools, more traditional preschools, they do not have to be open. Since our scholarships do run year round, it is frequent that our scholarship recipients will take classes in the summer, even when the program is closed. And so we do consider that the program director who's making the decision to sponsor should probably consider that, whether or not that they'll be owing money for the books and tuition for the summer semester when they're closed. So the answer is no, they don't have to be open year round. Do we get any other questions?
I'm not
seeing. I think I just see that one.
Any other questions?
Okay.
But keep them coming as they pop into your mind, and we will keep an eye on this.
Applications. I want to say TEACH scholarships are, I don't think I included this in the other slide. We accept applications at any time, so they can They can always apply, even if the semester has already started. We will frequently, if somebody applies in the middle of a semester, just because that's when they realize that the scholarships existed, we'll usually cover the semester that they are currently taking classes during. They don't have to be at the beginning of their degree program. They can be somewhere in the middle or in the middle of a semester. But we will not pay for previously completed semesters. So the scholarship can start where they are at the time that they apply, but nothing previous. And we don't pay off, they can't use a Teach Scholarship to pay off past debt or anything like that. So those are sometimes questions that I get.
I have a question.
Yep.
Erin, do programs, would a recipient have to be accepted to a college before they can apply?
I usually recommend that they go pick out their school and apply and get accepted, just because as part of the application process, we're going to ask for proof that they're either enrolled or that they've been accepted. But they can do both of those things at the same time if that's just how the timing works. I think we have one more question. Oh, yeah. The question is, how about graduate degrees or graduate credits? I wish that we had the funding to pay for master's degrees. I get this question at least once a month, and I wish we had the funding, but at this time, you can only use a Teach Scholarship for associate and bachelor degree level credits and not master's or graduate level. Hopefully in the future that'll change, but at this point, no. Do you have any more questions?
I don't have any more questions.
I think yeah. So we're really lucky in that we have Andrea as our special guest today. And what's special about Andrea is she's a center director at Children's Discovery Academy, and she has not only sponsored recipients, but she is also a Teach recipient too. So she's going to be able to talk about both sides of it, both the experience of being a director and having recipients in her center and how that works, and also herself being able to go to school and earn her degree. So I think we're gonna head back to Kylie.
So bear with us while we make sure that we can get Andrea connected.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, perfect.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're going to mute ourselves just so that we don't interfere while you're talking.
Oh, okay, sounds great. Okay, well, first I would just like to say that, well, Teach has been around for quite a while. I first found out about it from the brochures that were mailed to our centers. So we've always had them posted in our staff lounge for as long as I can remember. So there's always kind of been that, I don't know, it's always been posted and I knew it was there. More recently, I know that I see email communications about Teach, and I also have started seeing a presence at early childhood conferences that I attend, which I think is really great to see. So now, since I've had the opportunity to be both a Teach recipient and a director with participating staff, I do guess I have kind of a unique perspective because I have been able to see how both sides work. So thank you for taking the time to kind of hear about my experiences about the Teach program from both perspectives. So first off, as a scholarship recipient, the Teach program has been really great for me. It's given me an opportunity to increase my education level and then to use it in my job when I'm working with both children and staff. It's pretty amazing to be able to return to school and have the costs mostly covered. I received my earlier degree quite a while ago without the benefit of the Teach program, and being able to afford to go back to school to further my degree with more recent content is a huge career asset for me. So I feel like it makes me more of an expert in my field and maybe even opens up early childhood career opportunities that I might not have had otherwise. I have found that the enrollment paperwork is not overwhelming, and at the times I have had questions, I emailed or I called, and my Teach counselor always got back to me, and I had a prompt response. And I really kind of felt like as a recipient, it was a pretty low stress process to apply to Teach. So now, while I'm grateful that I was able to be a recipient of a Teach scholarship for my own professionalism, I will say that I also love having Teach scholarship recipients on my staff. When one of my staff decides to pursue a scholarship to take classes, it just shows me that the person values education and they really want to be good at what they do. They can decide on a path that works with their goals to become better at what they do, be it a 2-year or a 4-year degree. And on my end, I find that things like bookkeeping or finding release time for participants is really not hard at all, or certainly not as hard as I thought it might be. I know staffing is tight for all of us, so that was certainly a concern, but it's working out fine. I've just made efforts to be as flexible as I can for people so they can meet their goals. Hopefully, after that happens, they can share their knowledge and their professionalism with parents, with their staff, and with the children that we care for. So it's really great to see quality and best practice adjustments evolve in our classrooms and to see the students continue to apply what they learned each day in our center. So that's been really fun for us. Next, I would like to just talk a little bit about some of the benefits and challenges of participating in the TEACH program. So first off, there's some really great benefits to participating in TEACH that I found and would like to point out. So first, from a director perspective, as a TEACH center or a center that has TEACH applicants, we enjoy a more highly qualified staff, which I think raises the professionalism of our whole center. The children benefit as we incorporate staff learning into our curriculum and our teaching practices. There's that agreement that TEACH participants will stay with us at least a year past their contract term, which helps with turnover. And then it just plain looks good for prospective families when we can say that our teachers have a higher education level. So that's a great marketing tool for us too. From a TEACH recipient perspective, the cost savings over paying for classes myself is pretty high on the benefit list. With student debt making it tough for students of all types, I really feel lucky to be a recipient of such a generous scholarship. Paying 10% for college classes is pretty amazing. As I mentioned earlier, I also feel like the knowledge I have gained improves my professionalism. So it just makes me feel good. I feel accomplished in my field, and I like sharing my new knowledge and all of that with my coworkers and my staff and I guess with all of you. So now, while there's some great benefits to TEACH, some challenges for directors can include things like, of course, figuring out release time. Though, like I said, I found it really isn't as difficult as I feared. And then there's that financial contribution for centers. So centers must participate in the cost of college classes at 5% or whatever. So for recipients, there's finding time for classes and homework and completing TEACH paperwork. Though past the initial application and the completion of the FAFSA, there really isn't much maintenance paperwork for TEACH moving forward. Not that I found anyways. There's a financial contribution on the student's part, of course, though it's pretty minimal considering what you're getting. So now looking at it again from a director perspective, I would just like to say that I absolutely recommend TEACH to other directors. Aside from the benefits I find at the center level, a better educated early childhood workforce is really good for our whole profession. It lends more credibility to what we do in the eyes of parents and for other people who may not understand that this is a professional field. So I feel like it really lifts all of us up. That being said, there are just a few things that I think would have been helpful to know about TEACH before I started. So as a participant, I wish I had known more about which college programs I was eligible to attend to take advantage of the programs. There are schools that fit all types of students. There's online, there's in-face learning, there's all sorts of programs. And I was really grateful that I was able to attend classes at an institution that I held in high regard. And my learning was online, so it was really convenient for my work schedule too. I may have started a lot sooner had I taken the time to investigate that a little more early on. As a director, I wish I knew more about TEACH, how TEACH worked from earlier on. I think I would have encouraged more staff to apply just because it's such a great program. It's a benefit to our staff and it's also a benefit to our center. I actually mentioned TEACH as we look at prospective employees during interviews too, because I want them to know that we support their learning. Many people entering our field are unaware of how this can help them meet their education goals. So as a last thought, I guess I would just like to say that meeting my education goals has really been empowering. It empowers me to be my best self. And I think it's important in turn to empower others to be their best selves too. So I'm just really grateful for the Teach Scholarship opportunity that I have. And I'm happy to have the continued opportunity to be able to share my experiences with my staff and then with other early childhood professionals like yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. So while you were talking, we've gotten a couple questions coming in.
Sure.
Looks like these are more for the kind of logistics of application. So one question came in about what if you already have a bachelor's degree in kindergarten through age 3? Can you still apply to receive Teach and go back for a degree or a license in early childhood? And the answer to that is yes. So regardless of degrees that you might already have, if you're going back for, or if you're going for a first time or going back for a degree in early childhood, you are still eligible to apply. Your program requirements, this question is, if you are eligible, are you eligible if your center is a certified license exempt program?
Yes. As long as it's coming closer to me. Yes. If you are license exempt, as long as you are regulated in some way. So if that means you're part of a school district or like school readiness, it just has to be a regulated program, even if you are legally exempt. Yes. So the answer is yes. Short answer.
And that's consistent with the whole Teach program in general on a national level, right?
Yeah, that's pretty standard from state to state. It's the only one.
I think that's the only one right now, but we have a couple questions in here.
Okay.
Do you want to talk through this slide first?
Yeah, so thanks again, Andrea, because that was amazing, and it really helped to have someone who's lived through it talk about their experience. Some things that Andrea said that I really liked were that she's using it for recruitment of staff. She can also retention of staff. And I think those are two really important things that you could use a Teach Scholarship for in trying to attract staff. And it's a great tool for being like, hey, you can get your college degree paid for. And I think that's really like powerful. Also, people typically say, okay, I've had directors call me and say, okay, look, I want to introduce the Teach Scholarship program to my staff. I know there's going to be multiple staff who want to apply. Like, how can I afford to pay for all of them? Or do I have to offer it? If I offer it to one, I have to offer it to all. And then what if we can't afford it? And the answer is that the sponsoring program is always in control of that. They can choose. They can look at their budget and they can decide, well, we're just going to start with one. We've had centers that have said, we're only going to do one person at a time. We're only going to do 2 people at a time. We're going to just start with one person and we're going to see how it goes and we're going to see how much it costs. So the scholarship, the staff person cannot access the scholarship without the buy-in of the sponsor center, which is kind of a double-edged sword for them. But that does mean that the center is in the driver's seat too. They get to decide how many people or who are we going to allow. So you can create your own internal decision, like a rubric, I guess, about like who is eligible and how many are you going to support. People also ask me about how much does it cost. So I threw a lot of numbers at you, or we're going to walk through this. This is the estimated cost. I took 2 people who are current Teach recipients, and I pulled their actual dollars out of the database. So these are real numbers, and these are numbers for the entire year. That means it's not per semester. What we do is we bill on a per semester basis. So if you're looking at the total share here, that is the total for the entire year. So the first example I have here is somebody who went to a 2-year college. This one's from Rochester Community and Technical College. She took all 18 credits, so she reached the maximum limit of her scholarship. And we paid in a total about almost $3,400 for tuition. That's for 18 credits. That was for the whole year, 3 semesters. She also spent about $200 on books. that's 100% of the cost. So that's what we paid to the college, and that's how much she spent on books. The 5% share of that combined is only $180. So divide that by 3. Like, can your center afford $60 per semester to help someone go to college? That's a pretty minimal share. The next part is about release time. So we reimburse at a rate, like I said, at a rate of $12 an hour for up to 48 hours per semester. So this release time reimbursement, the $1,700, is for the whole year. That's 3 semesters. Then what we do is at the end of each semester, we'll reimburse your center for the release time that you offered to the staff person or the scholarship recipient. And then we'll deduct that from your 5% share. So if you owed $60 and you get your release time check, you'll actually get a check. It'll be less the $60 for that semester. And then, so that's why the out-of-pocket cost is actually like a negative number. That means this center would got $1,500 back in release time because they offered, that's offering the maximum amount of release time. So the only cost that's not included in this is they had to choose a bonus or a raise. And so that kind of factors in differently. I did not factor that in since it's an option, and those will be budgeted differently. But if you're looking to budget for the whole year, that $180, that's your cost. I mean, it does not take into consideration the difference in if you're offering release time. I acknowledge that she probably doesn't make $12 an hour. In fact, this person doesn't. So it's not factoring in that, but honestly, you're paying $180 for the whole year for someone to go to college to get their degree. That's not a huge amount. You'll see at the other end of the spectrum for the second example that I did, this is somebody who went to Concordia. So that's a private 4-year college, and that's at the other end of the spectrum in terms of cost. So you can see there was a total of $7,000. Again, this was for 18 credits. This was for the whole year. We paid $7,000 in tuition. She paid $435 in books. The center share of that for the whole year is $371, and my math is not good to quick do that divided by 3, but you guys can do that. And then also, since she was a center teacher, classroom teacher, and not an administrative staff or director, she got release time, and so the center's cost was minimal because we reimbursed them for release time. And so they didn't actually have to pay us anything. They just got release time reimbursement checks from us for 3 semesters. So even at the highest level, so even at doing a 4-year degree at a private college at Concordia in this example, which is, on the more expensive end, even that, it's not that much more for your center share. So people get nervous about like, how much is this going to cost? And that's why I always say, like, start with one person, see how it works, and figure out, I think it's going to be a lot less when you see this. And again, these numbers are assuming that the person gets no financial aid whatsoever. It also depends on how many credits they want to take, if they want to take all 18 or if they're going to take less, because some people do. Some people kind of start out college a little slower. Also, the number will fluctuate depending on if they're going to Metro State versus Concordia versus like a 2-year college, state college. So all these things, this is like a super rough estimate and it's a moving number, but I just wanted to give you a sense of like your 5% share could be somewhere between like $180 or less, maybe up to $370, maybe up to about $400. And again, this is per year, so you have to divide that into 3, and it's just going to be a lot less over the cost of each semester is going to be less. We have a question. All right.
So the question is, can we give an example for family child care?
Family child care will be similar. It's a totally different set of parameters, unfortunately, because a family child care provider will pay 15% of the cost. So that means you have to times the center 5% share by 3. I'll just put it that way. And then their release time reimbursement is $200 a semester. So then they get a travel stipend of $60 a semester. So the math turns out a lot different. And so there will be, it depends on where they go. The cost for them might be will definitely be more than the center share. But then they also get a $300 bonus. So again, the math is different. But that I would still say it's pretty affordable for family childcare providers. Frequently the book reimbursement and the travel and the sub-time reimbursement all kind of coincide together to eliminate their 15% share. So they aren't paying a lot out of pocket, or if any at all.
And that's probably a good time to mention too, if you have more questions about specific application plans, definitely contact Erin Young. We'll send out her contact information after this webinar, but I also wanted to plug the calculator tool that's available.
I don't think it's live yet.
That will be live.
Yes.
We'll send a link for it that you can use to navigate a little bit more with specific parameters. So if you're looking at comparing public 4-year to a private 4-year, or thinking about different credit loads, you can look at the different specifics with the application process there. It's not going to be completely nuanced. You won't get an actual invoice or anything for what it's going to cost you, but it does give a little bit more of a more dialed in estimate for a per person cost or a per staff person cost.
More options.
Mm-hmm. I also want to plug here, sorry, Erin. So we mentioned that other factors like financial aid, scholarships, other scholarships get calculated first. So anyone who's applying goes through the FAFSA process before we determine what somebody is going to be charged or what they'll be paying for their school. And recently, with our last legislative session, there was some bills that got passed about higher ed and workforce development specifically. Our 2-year colleges throughout the state, any min-state schools, have specific funding for workforce development scholarships. Previously, these did not include early childhood education degrees, but now almost all of the community colleges in the state have access to, I believe it's between 10 and 18 scholarships annually to be offering of varying amounts for students who are interested in early childhood education. And what that would mean for somebody who's a TEACH recipient as well, they would, and Erin will correct me if I'm wrong, so they would apply, they'd go for the financial aid. That workforce development scholarship would be assessed first. And then those percentages, that 5% and 10% split, comes out of the remaining cost for both the student and the program. So it's really, you can stack the different benefits. We want to make sure that we're making higher ed as accessible as possible and working with the different systems in the state to get there. So if you have specific questions about programs, or if you have a school near you that you're wondering about, you can get in contact with us, or you can email teach@childcareawaremn.org, and we can send you some more details there. Again, watch for those resources when we send them out after the webinar. A couple more questions. Anybody? Yeah. Oh, I guess I have, oh, here's one. If someone wants a ballpark figure for family childcare, oh, this is really helpful. So this is someone who is a current current student and a current TEACH recipient. So she took 9 credits total, and her out-of-pocket at Concordia for the semester was $284, and that was as a family childcare provider. So that's really helpful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, the cost calculator that Kylie mentioned will do a little bit more you'll be able to put in what school you want to go to, and we've estimated the tuition, which of course doesn't take into consideration financial aid, but you'll be able to do it as a family childcare provider, as a center teacher, or as a sponsoring center. You'll be able to see all the numbers for all of these things, so you can see when you change the different schools, you can see like how that changes the numbers and stuff. So that's really close to completion, and launch will, let you know when we launch it.
How long can I be a TEACH recipient for?
Forever? No. Actually, you can renew your scholarship as many years as you need to until you finish your degree, or until you decide that you're finished with college and you don't want to accept any more scholarships. So there is no limit to renewal. Yeah.
Hi, Erin, I have a question. So is a program like a center director or a teacher, we're interested in getting more information. I know they can reach out to you via email, but is it possible for them to come meet with you in person to go over maybe how that would work?
Absolutely. I'm happy to chat on the phone. I'm happy to chat in person. I'm happy to come out. If you're really interested in this and you want me to come out to your center and talk to you or your staff, I'm also happy to do that at any time. You can also see me at various conferences around the state. We travel around and we do vending at different conferences too. So there's always Teach scholarship information. If you're going to a conference in your local area, there's almost always going to be a table from Child Care Aware that'll have Teach information on too. So, and also your quality coach, if you're in Parent Aware, also will have access to this information too. And your professional development advisors, again, if you're working on Parent Aware, they also know we disseminate information throughout the whole system.
So this is a bit more of a nuanced question, but what if my program recently finished up in Parent Aware and received quality improvement dollars? Can I use that towards my center share? I believe that you can.
I think you can, yeah.
So you can use that to support your one-time only costs. There are parameters around the QI grant money, but if it lines up well with the start of the semester, the billing cycle for that, there's an option to put that towards that. So that's one way that you could be using those grant dollars as well.
Hi, I have one more question. Andrea, are you still on there? I have a question for you if possible. I'm going to try to unmute you, so give me 1 second. Okay, Andrea, are you there? Hello?
Oh, hi, I'm still here.
Oh, hi, this is Nikki at the coordinating office. I just have a question for you. You shared some really great examples of the benefits of the Teach Scholarship, both for you and your staff. But could you speak a little bit to maybe your teacher or your staff's impression about the Teach Scholarship and how the process worked for them, maybe just, kind of from their perspective?
Yeah, right now we have, I believe we have 3 scholarship recipients on staff right now. And typically, they would just come up and kind of ask about it. And if we participate, which of course we do, and the paperwork again doesn't seem to be overwhelming. They seem to have no trouble figuring it out. And there's some forms to sign on my end and they're kind of off and ready to go. So as far as release time, we're kind of working with them to figure out what works well for them. And sometimes it might be somebody just wants to take, 3-hour break on a Wednesday or something and sit in the lounge and do homework on their laptop, or maybe they want to leave early on a Friday or something like that to kind of get some errands done before before a class or something like that. But it seems pretty low stress, and I really feel like they're excited that they're able to do this, for one, because again, having the opportunity to have a scholarship like this is a pretty big deal. But also for two, I kind of feel like they're I don't know, like it's a self-esteem thing. Like they're excited about learning again, and they're bringing it to their classroom, and it kind of renews all the staff in that classroom with all the kind of cool things they're bringing back. And it's like I said, it was empowering for me, but I think that that's true for our staff too. I feel like they are empowered to take back that learning, and make it make it part of their career and make it part of their classrooms, and be really proud of what they're doing.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Andrea. Do we have any other questions?
We'll keep an eye out for any more questions, but if not, Like I said, keep an eye out for the resource materials and mark your calendars for the August 20th at 1 p.m. Our next TEL Talk is again going to be with Dr. Sharon Bergen. She is the head of the early childhood department at Dakota County Technical College, but she's going to be here to talk with us about professional development for center directors and administrators. So we're looking forward to having her here. And thank you all for joining us today. If you have questions going forward, don't hesitate to reach out. Anything else? And with that, we'll close it down. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.